Hi there guys, I hope you are having a good day. So Tyson Fury put this thing on his Twitter page where it was like one king and he is at the front and there's Wilder in the background, there's Usyk, Dillian Whyte and Anthony Joshua. There is only one king and there can only be one, and that is him, in his opinion. Now, the interesting thing about this is Tyson Fury has fought Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua has fought Dillian Whyte, but other than that, none of them have fought one another. There are other fighters that could be considered in the top 5, like perhaps Andy Ruiz Jr., and Joe Joyce could be getting there as well. I mean, he does have a fight with Usyk coming up, so you can kind of mix and match them based off of what their achievements have been in the heavyweight division, because remember, Usyk has had 2 fights at heavyweight with Chaz Witherspoon and Derek Chisora, so he does need to prove himself at heavyweight. He's done that in abundance in the cruiserweight division, but heavyweight is a different weight class, and it's going to be very difficult for him to make an impact. Not saying he can't, but it is going to be difficult. Now, while it's fair for Tyson Fury to assume that he is number 1, I mean, he's in the wrong sport if he thinks otherwise, but still, he does need to fight these guys. He definitely needs to fight Anthony Joshua to be considered as a number 1, and Dillian Whyte seems to believe that Tyson Fury has run away from him on 2 different occasions because he responded to that tweet, saying this specifically: "One these nuts in your mouth, you run away from fighting me twice, #coward." Now, that's not a brilliantly worded tweet, but still, I'm guessing the gist of it is that Tyson Fury ran away from him twice, and he is a coward for doing that. Now, the reason why Dillian Whyte is saying that he ran away from him is because Tyson Fury had the opportunity to fight Dillian Whyte, and that was before he fought Deontay Wilder the second time. He said that he'd fight Dillian Whyte if they got the Diamond title on the line. So Dillian Whyte and Eddie Hearn went to try and secure that, then Tyson Fury said he's not interested in fighting him, he would rather go and fight Deontay Wilder or pursue other options. So he even said all he done that for was to get Eddie Hearn and Dillian Whyte to do a little bit of running around, and he never really intended on fighting Dillian Whyte. He wanted the big guys, or so he said back then. So his intentions were never really to fight Dillian Whyte. He wanted Deontay Wilder, and now he wants Anthony Joshua. Does he seem to be running away from Dillian Whyte? Does he not want to fight him? Is he afraid? I guess is the big question. I don't necessarily believe so. I think that he doesn't want to give Dillian Whyte the opportunity more than anything else. That is more likely what it comes down to. I mean, Dillian Whyte is a handful for anyone in the heavyweight division. No one's going to have an easy night against him. Everyone who steps in the ring with him does know that. And eventually a fight might happen between a Dillian Whyte and a Tyson Fury. It depends heavily on the outcome of Undisputed between AJ and Fury, and hopefully that fight does get announced very soon, otherwise maybe that doesn't happen. And in that case, perhaps Dillian Whyte does get his opportunity to fight Tyson Fury, because who else is Fury going to fight if Undisputed does fall through? Although we are told that this week an announcement could come, but until the fight is confirmed, date and venue, that is when the fight is on. So at the moment for Dillian Whyte, he is in a situation where he does need to find a fight, and he's looking at Deontay Wilder. He previously looked at Andy Ruiz Jr., who has a comeback against Chris Arreola. I mean, Anthony Joshua would be a fight he would take, but that fight's not going to happen if Undisputed does. So Dillian Whyte is in a situation where he does need his world title opportunity. We have seen him take the tough fights, we've seen him risk his position continuously by taking tough fights. He doesn't need to do that anymore. He doesn't need to prove himself. He just needs to get that opportunity when it comes. But it won't come until next year. That is the problem for him. So he is in a situation where he needs to fight someone maybe like a Deontay Wilder, a big fight, because he is a big name and a pay-per-view draw now. So he doesn't want to start fighting lower level oppositions, and that's not in the nature of Dillian Whyte to do that. But he does need to save something for his opportunity, because these tough fights do put miles on the clock. And who knows, had he beat Povetkin last August, maybe he would be the one looking at fighting Tyson Fury next, as his mandatory. But I don't think that Tyson Fury has ever really considered fighting Dillian Whyte. I don't think he even wants to. I don't think he ever has either. He said that if he doesn't get the rematch with Deontay Wilder, this was right after his win over Wilder the second time around. And I think Dean Whyte was there. He asked Tyson Fury, will you give a shot to Dillian Whyte? If Deontay Wilder does not want the second fight, will you give Dillian Whyte the opportunity? And Tyson Fury clearly said to him that he will fight his mandatory, which was his actual number 1 at the time. I don't think Dillian Whyte was called as mandatory, but that was his number 1. he said he will fight Dillian if he does not get Deontay Wilder the third time around. Then obviously Dillian Whyte went his own way by fighting Povetkin, but still, he did say he would fight him. But he's never really expressed any kind of interest at getting in the ring with Dillian Whyte. And again, I don't think that's because he doesn't want to fight him because he's scared. Tyson Fury isn't scared. I just think that he doesn't want to give him the opportunity. I don't think he considers Dillian Whyte a big enough fight for him to consider actually taking it, even though he was considering fighting Ajit Kabayel and the likes of Carlos Takam. But that was different. Tyson Fury was taking an interim fight, waiting for a big fight with Anthony Joshua, but still, you would think that he would be looking at Dillian Whyte and thinking, should I fight him? He's in the top 5. I mean, Usyk, Dillian Whyte, maybe Andy Ruiz, Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua, why not fight all of them? They are a part of his era. I mean, look at the names Anthony Joshua has on his resume, the likes of Povetkin, Dillian Whyte, there is also Klitschko. I mean, Tyson Fury has Klitschko as well, and Deontay Wilder, but that resume could be filled out at having all of these names on it if he were to get in the ring with them. AJ has been going through the heavyweight division and fighting at top 10 contenders back to back, just like Dillian Whyte has. Joseph Parker's in there as well. I actually think that all of this talk about inactivity on Tyson Fury's team, I mean, John Fury said about it and Tyson Fury has talked about it as well. I think that perhaps could have been avoided in December. Now, Tyson Fury was going to be fighting Ajit Kabayel or Takam, which probably wasn't a big enough fight for them to warrant doing because pay-per-view numbers would not be high enough. I mean, it wasn't a big enough fight to sell. No one's really interested in that, or there are a select few, but the wider audience weren't interested in Fury versus Kabayel or Fury versus Takam. I mean, at that point, Dillian Whyte was supposed to be going into a rematch with Alexander Povetkin, but that didn't come off because Povetkin contracted COVID-19 and had to pull out. So Dillian Whyte was without an opponent, and of course he wants to get the rematch with Povetkin and exact revenge, which he has now done. But had Tyson Fury said to Dillian Whyte, do you want to fight me in December and we can make it a big pay-per-view in the UK, there would have been enough money, enough intrigue in that fight to make it happen, even though Dillian Whyte was coming off of a loss to Povetkin still. That would have sold pay-per-views, and Tyson Fury would not have this problem with inactivity going into an AJ fight. That is, of course, if he was able to beat Dillian Whyte, which is a very tough fight again, handful for anyone in the heavyweight division. It is down to that, the opponent that the big name faces. It seems though that Tyson Fury is only interested in these mega fights, or so he calls them, with the likes of Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua, and Dillian Whyte definitely isn't on the cards for Tyson Fury for whatever reason, because he is a top heavyweight and that would be a good name if he was able to beat him. But anyway guys, what are your thoughts on this? Make sure you leave your thoughts in the comments below, also leave a like and grab that subscribe button. Thanks guys.